Good evening.
Recording in progress.
Good evening and welcome. This is our Larimer County Board of County Commissioners land use hearing at 6 p.m. on Monday, February 6, 2023. I am Larimer County Commissioner Jody Shop-McNally, Chair of the Board, and I call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for joining us for the pledge. As I said, I'm Larimer County Commissioner Jody Shop-McNally, Chair of the Board. Joining me today at the dais are Commissioner Kristen Stevens, who resides in District 2, and also to my right is Commissioner John Kafalis, who resides in District 1. We're also joined by our county attorney behind me, Frank Haug, and from the clerk and recorder's office, our clerk for the board is Kelly Bryant. Thank you for being here, Kelly. We also have, at the other side of the room, we have Leslie Ellis, our Community Development Director. We also have Rusty McDaniel from County Engineering Department and Leah Schneider from the Public Health Department. So we are here today for a public hearing discussion items on the AEG Festival Special Events File Number 22-SPEVENT0050. So I will turn this over to Leslie if you want to kind of give us some instructions about this hearing today. Thank you, Leslie.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Shaddock-McNally. Leslie Ellis, Community Development. So a couple housekeeping items. We would respectfully request that if you have cell phones that you silence those, please. Also, we do have copies of the agenda here if you'd like to help yourself to that for the hearing. We have a sign-up sheet if you're here to make comments. You probably saw Shalana outside the door. We will invite, when the time is right, as part of the public hearing, the chair will recognize those of you who wish to speak. We have folks who are on Zoom as well, and so we would ask them, they'll remain muted until the time is right, and then we would ask them to raise their hand if they're interested in making comments. We do have listening devices up here somewhere, right there, if anybody would like that to assist with the hearing. And those are the main housekeeping items. We do have some other staff back in the audience too. I'm not sure if I can even see you all. Amy White, Eric Freed, and some members of our referral agencies also who I may introduce as we get into the hearing item as well, if you have questions of them. So I think that those are the main items to start us off.
Thank you so much, Leslie. I appreciate it, Director Ellis, for that information for the public. As I said, we have one item today on our public hearing discussion items. And so should I ask the applicants if that time, or should I wait till after the presentation from staff for timing?
You can go ahead and ask them now if you'd like to do that.
So I want to just ask the applicants for kind of giving for our timing and knowing how much we have in public comment. I was going to, usually we have a certain amount of time, and other land use hearings are about 10 minutes, but I was knowing this is a little more complex. Would 20 minutes be enough for you to have your presentation today? You would have some time for rebuttal, which would probably, I probably would look for that to be 5 to 10 minutes after the public comment. Would that be, if you want to approach, would that be enough time for 20 minutes?
Madam Chair, and good evening, Commissioners. My name's Claire Havelda. I'm of Brownstein, Hyatt, Farber, Schreck, and I represent the landowners in this matter. I have about 10 minutes of legal argument I would love to have a chance to present to you before AEG does their main presentation, but I certainly don't want to cut into their time. So is 20 minutes sufficient for AEG?
We can make it over 20 minutes.
And would it be acceptable for me to have 10 minutes? And honestly, it would probably best to make that legal argument before the staff report even occurs.
We probably will do staff report and have you do as part of the applicant. That's how we usually have that format.
And that's fine. I just thought I'd make a request.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yes. So colleagues, how do you feel about 30 minutes of the 10 minutes, or do you want me to hold them to 20 total? You're okay with that?
I guess I'm okay with 30 minutes.
Okay.
It's not customary. We usually give much less time, but
Right, I agree. Well, how about let's do, yeah, like I said, that's why I brought up customary. It's usually customary that we have shorter amount of time. So I will go ahead and just make it 25 minutes total and see if you guys can be as concise as possible with, because it really is not customary for us to have that long of a presentation from the applicants. And then I will hold you to only 5 minutes for rebuttal. So, okay, so just kind of setting expectations before we get started. Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and start with staff report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Let me get my slides up and screen shared here. All right. So we are here this evening to hold the hearing on the AEG special event, as you've noted in your introductions. This is an event and a proposal to host a special event that's a 3-day music festival for up to 13,500 patrons on August 25th through August 27th of this year. And this is a 24-hour operation event, generally opening Thursday at 4 o'clock with patrons leaving by noon on Monday. This is located along County Road 29, about 2.5 miles north of the Highway 34 intersection, and I'll show you the location map here momentarily. The applicant is AEG Presents, Rocky Mountains Division, and they are an experienced entertainment company that operates venues around Colorado that range in size from 500 to 17,000 persons in capacity, and I'm sure they'll probably tell you more about their operations. So we review these applications per our Land Use Code Article 7, and I did put some copies of both this presentation criteria and that section on the dais for reference. That section of the code outlines the purpose of special events regulations and provides for temporary use of property for special events. It also provides for the orderly control of events. Through a permitting process, it ensures that promoters are aware of circumstances that could impact their event. It minimizes significant events and impacts on nearby areas, and it applies to any event in the county that has 40 or more overall attendance on the property. It also excludes property where there's an existing land use approval. In this case, Section 7.63, the action on the application section states that one of the possible actions that could be taken is for the director or myself to schedule the application for a public hearing before the Board of County Commissioners to determine if the event should be allowed or denied. And in this case, I did do that because of the past level of public interest in this activity and site and past decision-making by the Board of County Commissioners on similar types of events on this site. So here you can see the property in the vicinity and location north of US 34. The property is west of County Road 29 and access County Road 27 skirts the property to the east. County Road 29 goes around the property to the west, and then both County Road 29 and 27 connect to US 34. It's mostly surrounded by, within about a half a mile, larger institutional properties and some Forest Service land to the west, Sylvandale Ranch, a quarry to the east and northeast. As you get about a half a mile away, you have more residential properties to the east side of the property, as you can see with these concentric circles that are about a half a mile each, so you can get a sense of the scale there. The site layout, and you'll probably hear much more from the applicant about this. This map, site map is a bit hard to read, but it includes spaces for parking, recreational vehicles, car camping, and demonstrates where the 3 stages would be located. A main stage that has an 11 p.m. curfew on Friday and Saturday and 10 p.m. on Sunday, and then a B stage and a DJ tent. And I am not entirely certain where those are located on here, but they can hopefully point that out to you, but up in the northwest corner of the property. It also provides for food and beverage vendors, an activities tent, and a general store, water stations, toilets, and then the parking spaces for 5,400 cars. The access to the event is off of County Road 29, and no parking will occur along the road. There's also on-site emergency and medical response. So by way of a bit of background on this particular location for events, in 2017, Land Use Code Section 7 began to restrict owners of properties that had prior land use approvals from applying for special events. And at that time, in 2018, there had been a music festival on this particular property, and it was connected to the west side of the road as part of a property with a special review land use approval. And that amendment to that special review is a separate process from this process. We're reviewing it on the basis that the event is on the east side of the road. But there is a history connected to the other side. So in 2019, the Board of County Commissioners granted an appeal to the special events process and approved that event on that property with some conditions that limited amplified music on the main stage to stop at 11 p.m., that limited the number of tickets, and required a plan for neighborhood outreach. That was the last time that there was a larger event held on this property. In 2021, the owner opted to subdivide a 35-acre plus parcel from that west side of the road, and so the music festival is proposed to be held on that property on the east side of the road. Therefore, it does not require any sort of amendment to the special review approval or an appeal to the special events section of the code, just to be clear. So there is history of events on this property, but the circumstances are a bit different as of 2021. So we did refer this out to the referral and review agencies, and you can see the list of those who responded here, and those are all in your packet in attachment C. And then some of these referral agency representatives are here this evening if you have questions about their comments. We did receive neighborhood comments or neighbor comments as of the time of the application. When this was sent out, there were only 3 in favor and 3 opposing that were included in the original packet. You do have more on the dais tonight that have come in since the time that the report was sent out. So the review criteria in section 7.5 are what staff looks at for reviewing the proposal, and also are what the county commissioners would consider and must consider in section 7.5 and find that each of these criterion has been met. And the applicant in each case must demonstrate that the special event first can be compatible with existing and allowed uses in the surrounding area. Second, can comply with all applicable requirements of the code. Third, will result in no substantial adverse impact to other properties in the vicinity, including environmentally sensitive areas. Fourth, has addressed the recommendations of the referral agencies. And fifth, will comply with the applicable performance standards. And then there's a longer set of performance standards that we go through. So your memo on pages 5 through 6 addresses these first 5 criterion. And first of all, the staff team found that the applicant did not, at the time that we submitted this and reviewed this, address the compatibility in the application fully, but does note some factors related to access and hours of operation and agreement to sound measuring. The size of the attendance has been a concern in the past and continues to be a concern relating to other large events that are happening in the region. And we noted some that are in that immediate vicinity and actually passing by the location. The sheriff has indicated some concerns about evacuation of the property should that need to occur at that time, and whether there could be other large events. We've had a history of surrounding residents also expressing concerns about noise and impacts from the event, and have previously requested a maximum level of sound that may need to be addressed. The applicant at this point had not fully addressed how the event complies with all of those review criteria in section 7.79, or how it would result in no substantial adverse impacts on other properties in the vicinity. And as I noted earlier, the application was referred to a variety of the referral agencies, and they had provided quite a few comments. If it was to be approved, this special event, the applicant would need to address the following recommendations from many of the referral agencies, including potentially looking at another date because of the conflicts there. Potentially providing a clear and workable wildfire evacuation plan, addressing comments in the January 6th memo from Loveland Fire, restricting parking on County Road 29 and access from US 34 on that route, addressing all the recommendations in the Health Department's memo and making sure that those have been addressed related to kitchen, food service, waste, the restrooms, the water, and so on, sound control plan in particular, providing the certificate of insurance and providing more detail on on-site emergency personnel and so on. Additionally, the performance standards are outlined here, and we summarized in the staff memo how the applicant had addressed them in their application and what additional information might be needed on each of the performance standards in section 7.7. So the first three deal with water, toilets, and solid waste. And in particular, the Health Department memo on page 107 asked for more information. And I understand from Leah Schneider that the applicant has provided additional information. And so there may be new information or questions that could be addressed related to each of those topics, as well as topics of sound and medical health and environment related to emergency medical technicians and personnel. But all of those topics were also addressed in the Health Department's memo for the performance standards in section 7.4 and 7.5, as you can see here. Lighting is another topic that would be addressed. The parking area appears to be sufficient, and the applicant did address no parking allowances along County Road 29 and access. Engineering has reviewed the plan and concurs that the parking is adequate and asked the applicant to address a method of handling traffic plan, asked that that be submitted and approved by the Sheriff's Office and CDOT, and addressing access to the property itself. And Rusty McDaniel's here if you have additional questions around those topics in particular. The application does not specifically address communication facilities, but stated that the applicant will reach out to emergency services that service the area. The particular criterion around camping facilities we have not found to be applicable other than overnight water provisions and that sort of thing. The applicant for criterion 7.9, security, there is a private security company, and the applicant has proposed that on page 19 of their application, but does not specify which company or how many officers, and that would be something we'd need more information. The application also noted a hope to contract with the Sheriff's Office to have off-duty coverage on site. Given the other events that weekend, it's unlikely that the sheriff would be able to provide that support, and they may be able to address that if you have further questions on that. These next topics here, fire protection, sound, and dust mitigation are also noted in the staff memo. The applicant is aware that they need a special event permit from Loveland Fire, and Loveland Fire did provide a memo on January 6th asking for further corrections and clarifications. And I have not seen a response to that, so there may be further information on that this evening. It's not clear exactly how the applicant will mitigate excessive noise levels. The Health Department had requested additional information about the sound control plan, and we may hear more about that this evening as well. The property is vegetated, and therefore that should help mitigate for dust, and the applicant has provided a water truck to spray for any excessive dust. Section 13, electrical systems, actually was not addressed in the memo, and that is not something that I have information on here, but they would need to comply with all of our requirements for electrical systems. And the applicant addresses that the vendors and food service will conform to the health department's requirements as noted in the referral area, and that AEG has sufficient resources to address the guarantees requirement in our code. And then coming to the end of this list of performance metrics, the applicant notes that the earth moving work is not proposed and the vegetation cover will be retained. Exotic animals are not applicable in this case, and the surface is grass, and traffic will be managed through signage and web messaging. And then the applicant also acknowledges the insurance requirement. So based on the information that we have and received in the application, the Development Services team does not recommend that the Board of County Commissioners approve the application at this time, primarily because of the timing and coinciding with other major events and concerns about security and safety, and that the application does not sufficiently address all of the criterion in Article 7 of the Land Use Code. However, should you decide that that you'd like to move forward, we would recommend that there are conditions attached to an approval for this particular application. And we've noted these here and in your staff memo too, that would basically ensure addressing all of those sections of the code and making sure that the referral agency comments are addressed and addressing some of the other major concerns like the wildfire evacuation plan and so on. So those are listed here too, and we can certainly answer any other questions that you have about that. So that brings to a suggested motion, or again, a motion with conditions of approval. And I think at this point, I would open it up for any questions that you may have of the Development Services team. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ellis. Appreciate that presentation, colleagues. I will see if you have any questions for staff at this point. Commissioner Stevens? Commissioner Gonzalez, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Leslie. An overarching question that I have is related to when was the application submitted, and then when did the community development team review the application and determine that many of the Article 7 review criteria for special events had not been adequately addressed. Because one of the challenges, at least for me, is that we have this big packet and apparently the applicant is not responding. And so I'm curious, when was the application submitted? When did you all review and inform the applicant that there were a lot of gaps here? And why are we getting this additional information, just before the meeting?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So we received the application in December before the holidays, I believe. We refer it out to our referral agencies. We have 21-day process to send it out. As referral agents comment back to us and as our team comments, we share those comments with the applicant and so that they can begin to prepare responses to those. And those have been occurring for several weeks now as we've posted out those comments and to the applicant. So the applicant had provided some information late last week in response to some of those, and I understand also sent some responses potentially directly to some of the referral agencies that didn't come through our special event team. So they're coming in at different stages and have been spanning a period of several weeks.
Follow-up.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Leslie. That's helpful. Will there be an opportunity to hear from the referral agencies to determine if indeed the concerns have been adequately addressed?
Yes, Commissioner, you could ask some of those questions now if you'd like of the referral agencies, certainly of Leah Schneider or Rusty or those in the audience, or wait and find out and hear from the applicant how they are proposing to address, and then ask those questions after the applicant's presentation. That would be your choice, but you would have an opportunity to ask them questions, yes.
Thank you. I think we should proceed with the process.
Commissioner Stevens, did you have other questions?
So the event will have 13,000, will allow 13,700, is that correct? And 5,400 parking spaces, is that deemed adequate?
Yes, the event, just to clarify, so that there would be proposed 13,500 patrons as a sold-out event with 450 volunteers on site, potentially, with 5,400 parking spaces. So I would then turn it over to Rusty to comment on the is it adequate question.
Based on the information that was provided with the number of occupants per vehicle, which seemed reasonable, I actually believe there's closer to 6,300 parking spots being provided between the regular vehicles, the camping vehicles, and then they have some overflow parking spots also. So in reviewing that, the number of people per vehicle seems reasonable, and so they would have enough parking.
And with the fact that people would not be allowed to park on County Road 29, who would be monitoring that? They would have to self-monitor. Presumably their volunteers would be responsible for that.
Well, we've asked that they provide a traffic control plan that the sheriff's office would have to approve, and then whether there's flaggers out at intersections and along the roadway, and also checking County Road 29, we would assume they did put in their application that they'd already agreed not to allow any parking on County Road 29.
Okay, thank you. I'm good.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just want to clarify, since we just had these responses from the applicant tonight, I don't see a date on this good morning. So was this received today or what? There's no date on this. Just want to make sure exactly when this good morning document, the cover one, and all the rest of the documents were received.
The items that are on your dais that came in either came in late last week or came in through noon today. So some of the public comments, I think, came in through today.
Okay, thank you. Colleagues, do you have any other questions? Commissioner Kafalis?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask Ms. Schneider-Leah from Public Health Department, the comments that you indicated that in terms of potable water and adequate septic or sanitation, that those issues had been addressed, but you've also indicated that there may be a requirement for additional amounts of water. That's a little bit cryptic. Could you explain that, please?
Sure. We have in our initial
Respectfully, may I ask both Rusty and Leah, could you guys talk more into the mic, because I couldn't hear you, Rusty. I know you're a soft-spoken deputy or county engineer person.
So with the water, we did receive some additional comments, I think January 30th from the applicant. And they addressed some of our comments. In regards to potable water, they did let us know that they'd have like 12 free water stations around the site that can each hold 125 gallons, and bottled water be provided, things like that. A lot of this may have already been in the application, but they said that they would be refilling the two 6,000 gallon tankers on site continuously throughout the day. But one of the things, this is not cemented, I guess. We haven't received concrete information as to how much would be out there per day. We are requiring a minimum of 1 gallon per person. So if they go up to 1,300 and 950, you'd imagine per day we'd need about 1,300 or almost 14,000 gallons, but they're also, they will also be providing water to the vendors. And this will be the food vendors that'll kind of be almost trapped on site in essence. I hate to use that term, but it is a 24-hour festival in that sense. So we do need to make sure that we have water, wastewater service, and we'll be evaluating that as part of the health department as we get closer, because we also look at each food vendor application, and we'll be requiring a coordinator event application as well to evaluate more about water, wastewater situations, and as well as licensing for each food vendor. And then the commissary will be the Sunrise Ranch Conference Center there on site, and they'll be providing a freezer truck, a refrigerator truck, things like that for food safety and sanitation with the water and wastewater services.
What about toilets?
We are getting way more than we have in the past. Very excited. The portable restrooms, we got some numbers in the response comments. We are looking at, let me see, I think it was 252 total. And this includes new banks that we're going to have in all the camping areas. So we have a revised site plan that actually shows locations for all these different banks. So like the car camping, we'll have 22 restrooms, 2 of those being ADA. We'll also have 8 hand washing stations. So they've followed our numbers that we proposed in the application. So they've provided comments back saying that they would follow that. They've also have the 135 just for the event attendees, and then each camping and car parking area and RV site will have additional ones, for a total of 252 and 79 hand washing stations on site.
Thank you.
So Leah, real quick, to add on the water, it's August. One gallon per person for the day?
That's a minimum requirement even with activity and things like that. So if you wanted to make a higher recommendation to go over for a 24-hour festival, we could always go a little higher. It's the frequency of filling the tanks. It would be nice to have a couple of extra water haulers on site to have that capacity. They're probably going to have firefighting needs, things like that. So I would double check with fire on what they have to support suppression.
I guess unless colleagues, you have a question? So we're talking right now about 13, they asking for 13,000, but the staff's recommendation is really not more than 9 from the last time. So that still holds even though we're asking questions about water for 13. I guess Leslie, just want to make sure that's still staff's recommendation.
Yes, that was the benchmark from the last event on the site. And given the lack of an evacuation plan and some of the other factors, that could be adjustable depending on if you feel like the other factors get satisfied per the code and per these criteria. But at this point, we were benchmarking it based on the past approvals.
Okay, thank you. Colleagues, any other questions, or would you like to wait till after the presentation and we hear from? Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, colleague. So I guess we'll go ahead, staff, we'll go ahead and move on to the applicants for the presentation. And Leslie, do you have the ability to watch that? Now, I really encourage if you can make yourselves more concise, so we're not here forever. So if you would go ahead and come up to the mic, introduce yourself, and we're going to try to hold you that 25 minutes. So.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. As I mentioned, my name is Claire Havelda, and I represent the property owner of the subject property in the special event permit, and also of a property that was referenced in the staff report and as part of the staff recommendations. My client is the Emissaries of Divine Light, doing business as Sunrise Ranch. I want to thank staff, first of all, for the thoughtful decision to refer this matter up to you. I think that was very wise. And I want to state, as I former Assistant City Attorney in both Fort Collins and Loveland, that I have great appreciation for the work that your county staff does. Having said that, I am very concerned that the staff has not thought through the full legal ramifications and consequences of the recommendations made in the staff report regarding considerations of property and an appellate matter that is outside the scope of the special event permit from the referral agencies. If the commission considers these recommendations, and I'm specifically referring to the ones from the building official and the zoning inspector regarding the secondary parcel that's not, the subject of this hearing, you run the risk of due process and equal protection violations, and I really hope that we can avoid that. I'm watching my clock, and I'm going to try and be concise, so if I'm confusing, please ask questions. Staff's recommendation is partially based on property that's not subject to your hearing, and that does two things that are legally impermissible. The first is that it inserts code requirements and language where none exist, thus invoking a due process and equal protection concerns by implementing rules that only apply to my client and weren't adopted through a public hearing process, which is a violation of your municipal code, section 1, specifically 110 amendments, which talks about how you are appropriately to amend your code to add additional requirements. Secondly, if you rely on this information, you are prejudging an unrelated matter that is currently on appeal, and thus denying my clients the right to a full and fair hearing. They have the right to appeal the secondary matter on the secondary parcel of property under your land use code 6.72B1B. I would ask that all references to these recommendations and information relating thereto be stricken from the packet and from your consideration. I want to focus, we are under Land Use Code Section 7. That's completely accurate. You have every right to really take a hard look at the safety concerns that this event presents. By all means, please do so. But I think AEG will show that requirements 7.51, 0.2, 0.3, 0.5, and 0.4 have been met. But I want you to look at the language of 0.4. 7.5.4 states that the applicant has demonstrated that the special event has addressed the recommendations of referral agencies. It does not say that if you have an application for a special event on one parcel, you may not be approved if you have an unresolved appellate dispute on a second parcel. What we have here is an invitation by county staff to engage in violating the code in two ways. First, the inappropriate addition of language to your code and requirements that would apply only to my client. You don't have a public hearing on those additions to the code. You don't have two readings of an ordinance. You don't have notice, and you don't have an opportunity for public comment. Second, you are being asked to violate my client's due process and equal protection rights because you have basically undercut the purpose of the appellate review in Land Use Code Section 6. My clients have a right to a full hearing. We have the right under 6.72B1B to challenge the building official's interpretation of the code. That section of the code specifically says a person may assert that the director made an error in interpreting the text of the code. All we're asking for is the time and the space that the code affords us to have a full hearing on that matter, and that you not use allegations in that other case as a basis for judgment in this one. And with that, I am at 4:59, and I will turn it over to AEG. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ned Garth. I'm with AEG Presents. Thank you so much for taking the time.
I'm going to have you pause just real quick. We can pause the time so we can give you back 3 seconds, okay? So I'm just going to, colleagues, I'm just going to ask our county attorney just to address those statements. And Frank, do we need to go into executive session, or do you want us just to address those right now?
I think we can address it now. I think the issue is that there's, in the staff report, there's a statement about an adjacent property and buildings on that property that the building official has stated are have some issues that need to be corrected. I agree that it's not appropriate to consider or penalize an applicant for a violation on a property that's not affiliated with this. The only way that would be appropriate is if that safety concern was somehow pertinent to whatever you're doing tonight. You have to stick to the considerations in Section 7. Those are the criteria that you have in front of you tonight. You can't consider other issues. You can't adjudicate other issues. You can't solve those problems this evening. The only way it would be appropriate to consider those things is if they were somehow pertinent to one of the criteria that you're appearing tonight. It's also important to understand that they do have the right to appeal those, and there's not been a full process played out. So they can still, they can still pursue those options. That's not what we're here to resolve this evening.
Colleagues, do you have a question for Frank? I see your hand raised. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Frank. I think what you said helps to clarify the issue that has been raised. I believe the attorney and you are referring to, in our packet, there was a reference to building code or code compliance violations that apparently are occurring on the other property. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
Yes, I believe that's correct. And to the extent those buildings are not part of this application, you should not consider any building violations on those properties.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think I can understand that. My follow-up question is, you did say we could consider those code violations if it was pertinent to what we're trying to discern this evening. How do we make that determination?
You'll have to listen to the evidence and then try and decide whether you think that's appropriate. The only way I can think of it is the building problems or safety problems. Are the buildings safe for people to occupy? If nobody is part of this application is going to occupy those buildings, then I don't think you'd have any basis to make any kind of decision that you should consider that.
And if I may, just one last question. Is that okay, Madam Chair? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So the building code violations and the code compliance issues, is that part of the special review process, or is that a different matter?
So the code violations in the buildings are on the property on the west side of the road, which, as far as we could discern from the application, are not being used as part of this special event, nor should they be, because the special event should take place entirely on the west side of the road. But that may be something that the applicant could clarify here tonight.
Thank you.
Commissioner Stevens, do you have a question?
No, I'm ready to hear the rest of the presentation.
Okay. I think I'm fine right now. I just wanted to pause so we could kind of address that right off the bat. So thank you for your patience.
Of course, thank you.
Leslie and I both have our clocks, so you can go ahead and introduce yourself again, please, and we'll give you back those 3 seconds.
Great. My name is Ned Garth. I'm from AEG Presents. I'm the manager of special projects. How can I project this presentation onto?
She showed you how to do it, but you know how to project it? I think we do it here. I might need cursor. It looks like it's all connected. I don't know. Normally we get these presentations in advance, so here maybe. Let me try.
if we can't do it, I can just do it verbally.
Do we need to turn this on from the
Yeah.
new controller?
So I'll just go ahead. I'm going to get started while we work some of these things out so I can give you guys some background as who we are and what we do. So AEG Presents, we're a worldwide company. We produce live events all over the world. We have a number of events in Denver, Colorado. We have a number of events all over North America. In Denver primarily, and in Colorado, we manage events that are from 10,000 people in scale up to 50,000 people in scale. And those are events that I personally work on. I'm speaking from direct experience. So what I do is I am the manager of special projects for this region. I work on music festivals all the time. This is my full-time position. This is my job. All these metrics that I'm about to go through with everybody, these are all standard, and this is the way we operate music festivals, and this is how we keep things safe and controlled and fun, and everybody is above board on them, okay? So I'm going to just briefly, because I know we're on a time crunch, just go through some shows that I did last year and a little history on me. We did Decadence. That was a 22,000 person event, 2 nights in a row, 22,000 people per night at the convention center. I was the festival director of Chris Lake and Fisher. That's a 10,000 capacity event. I was at the National Western Stockyards. I do Jazz Aspen. I'm the operations director. That's a 10,000 person capacity event. I was the festival director for Global Dance 2021 and 2022. That's a 22,000 person event show, both nights. And I was the operations director and front of house manager for the Dead & Co. at Folsom Field. That's a 50,000 person event show. Just go through these because these are fun pictures. So what we're proposing is a 3-day camping festival that you are well aware of. It's a 13,500 capacity show. That's patrons on site. And it does include tent camping, car camping, RV camping. The main stage, the general main stage on this event, we're having a hard curfew at 11 o'clock p.m. That curfew is written into the contracts of the artist. That is a hard curfew. The other auxiliary stage, the other amplified sound that's going to come from the auxiliary stages is a 1 a.m. curfew. So we're going to, I'm going to get into some specifics about how we manage that. Unfortunately, this is not working. So one of the things that comes up with capacity and event specifics is how do people come to this capacity number? How do we determine how many people we can fit safely on site? The industry standard is 1 person per 5 square feet. So what we did is we took a snapshot of the main concert bowl, just where the patrons are, and I can get you direct images. I have this image, but it's not projecting. And just the main stage area, just where the people are going to be, just the patrons, we took that square footage and we actually upped it to 1 person per 7 square feet, which is considerably more conservative. And we come out with a figure of 17,500 people just for that one stage, okay? This is a calculation that I use all the time. This is a manageable, safe recommendation of patrons per square footage. This accounts for infrastructure, this accounts for vendors, this accounts for a lot of things. This accounts for crowd size, this accounts for safety of people being able to get in and out. That's a conservative number. 13,500 is an even more conservative number. This site is built for events like this. It is perfect for this. That number that we've come up with is a well-managed number. The other auxiliary stages, we have a tented stage that is going to have a capacity of 2,500 people, again on that same 1 person per 7 square feet. And the other capacity of the third stage is going to have a capacity of 5,000 people. That is a fraction of the square footage of the event site. Again, that's the 1 person per 7 square feet. So 13,500 people, patrons, is a well-managed number. In addition, it fits perfectly with the allowable parking on site. So the GA camping, we have there's 3 different tiers of camping. There's going to be a VIP camping area. That's going to be 306 camping spots. They're 12 by 20 camping. The footprint is a 12-foot by 20-foot spot. They're going to have private bathrooms, private water, access to bathrooms, security, private viewing. There's an RV camping. It's a 20-foot by 26-foot spot. It's 228 spaces. In the RV parking area, we've actually increased the drivable emergency access pathways to 24 feet. Okay, I want people to be able to get in and out if there's an emergency. I want EMS to be able to get in and out if there's an emergency with ease. I don't want obstructions. I don't want barriers. People can get in, get out. That's how I'm able to do this, is we have to make it safe. The GA camping spot, we graded out into a 10-foot by 15-foot section. There's 1,240 different camping spots available with plenty of emergency access. And if you can reference your map, I have emergency gates all over this place, and all those emergency gates are going to be well staffed with private security. The GA camping is going to have 25 dedicated bathrooms, 4 ADA bathrooms, 8 hand washing stations. The car camping situation is going to be 10-foot by 30-foot spots. There's 928 spots available. They're going to have dedicated dumpsters. They're going to have bathrooms, 20 bathrooms, 2 ADA bathrooms, 8 hand washing stations. I want to instill with everybody that we are keeping waste management at the forefront of our mind. We want ample toilets. We want ample parking. We want ample access. And I think this CAD map represents that very well. The same thing goes for GA parking. We have 3,900 spots available. That does not include our overflow parking. The point that I'm trying to drive home is we can safely get people into the site. We can safely park these people. They can safely enjoy the event. If there is an emergency, these people can evacuate flawlessly. The ingress pathway, there's going to be one ingress pathway into the GA area for all ticket holders. That is going to be Highway 34 to County Road 27, north on County Road 27 to County Road 29. I'm really sorry I don't have this projected up for you, but I'll get you snapshots of this. This is the main pathway for all ticket holders to get into the show. This is the only pathway for ticket holders to get into the show. That's what we're proposing. There is an auxiliary route. If you took Highway 34 and you went north on County Road 29, we're proposing to close that to festival traffic. The goal is there's a small little neighborhood to the south of us. We want to protect the integrity of that neighborhood and not let festival traffic come northbound on Highway 29 to the event. We want to redirect them so everybody comes in from the north entering to the south. That auxiliary route, the south of the reservoir, we want to maintain open for neighborhood traffic, local resident only, and emergency pathway if there is some obstruction that blocks County Road 29 out. So that way EMS always has 2 possible routes. Main patrons come in, they come in from the north. Great, they get in, we can queue them up. We can get them off of the highway, they can get into the event. EMS has 2 pathways out. Northbound on County Road 29, southbound on County Road 29. So that's the one proposed road closure. We would work very closely with the Sheriff's Department to come up with a signage plan. I have a signage map for you. Staff those road closures, staff that crowd control. I want people to be able to get the adequate information to get to the turnaround point, see where they're going, have signage as they're entering the event, direct traffic adequately. The medical, Stadium Medical is actually here tonight. So Stadium Medical is going to be working the site with us. They're going to be working in conjunction with Thompson Valley EMS. Can you guys come up for a brief second? So we're going to have two medical sites on site. One is going to be 24-hour staffed. The other one is going to be staffed just for the duration of the concert hours.
Good evening. My name is Megan Otis. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Stadium Medical. We have been providing special event coverage for over 20 years, going into our 23rd year. Worked personally with Ned on all of the festivals and shows that he previously mentioned. So we've had a great working relationship for many, many years. Want me to say more about us?
That's perfect. Thank you. We are going to build a direct phone line so that local neighborhood people can get a hold of us at any time. They can get a hold of me. They can get a hold of my staff. If there is an issue, we are equipped and we are used to dealing with, flawless and fluid emergency communications and building relationships with the local people and the local communities. We are definitely going to have private security on staff. They're going to be handling everything from bag check, ticket scanning, bag search, VIP, emergency gate access. We're going to have metal detectors on site. We're not doing the wands. This is a fully secure site. We're just working through what the deployment numbers are going to be like, but we're anticipating a very robust security presence with 24-hour camping, with car camping, with on-site parking, with music festivals. Security is a high priority of mine, and we maintain that integrity. The next issue that has been brought to us from a multiple of positions or angles has been the sound mitigation. My director of production, Zach Palin, is here, and he can come up and speak a little bit about how we manage sound, what the limits are that we work within, and why it's a reasonable, process.
Good evening. My name is Zach Palin, production manager for AEG Presents in Denver. I work in accord with Ned here on all of the projects that he mentioned earlier. I've been with AEG for over a decade, and have quite a bit of experience in festival production management. I just want to start off and assure you that we take the environmental impact of production very seriously. Behind traffic and attendees, sound and lighting is right there on impact with the surrounding neighborhoods. And we want to do everything within our limits and capacity to mitigate the overall impact of this event. And moving on from there, Ned mentioned that we will have direct access for communications with the surrounding neighborhoods. So we'll have a direct line when it comes to any neighborhood complaints, requests. That will come directly to us, and we will be on a 24-hour hotline set up for residents. We understand there's a 50 decibel A-weight limit at the nearest property line, which I believe is behind the stage. And we will follow the same sound mitigations that Arise was held to, but with additional precautions. We will have on-site and off-site sound meterings. A couple different teams in the neighborhood, on site, and around the venue to be perpetually taking and documenting sound levels. And we have had an environmental sound impact noise calc was conducted, and from our sorry, I'm not used to public speaking. From our vendor Brown Note, who helps produce a multitude of our festivals, they've produced a diagram that we have in the packet that shows what effects this will have, the sound will have on the event, and that also includes lighting mitigation. We are pointed at a crest. The stage is all of the sound will be aimed towards a hill, and we have technologies nowadays that can help mitigate all the sound pressure levels at all these different spots within the festival footprint. As you mentioned, there is a 11 p.m. curfew on the main stage, and at 1 a.m. all amplified sound will be off on the smaller stages. Besides that, we'll have direct communication with all the production and artists where we can help mitigate any lights, any lasers, anything ahead of time, and make sure that we address any issues with sound, lighting, lasers before doors open, because we'll be running tests throughout the day before and leading up to the event. And that's all I got for now.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, one thing I just want to highlight that Zach said is that we're going to be conducting sound checks during the build. If there is a sound issue that is just glaring, we're going to have the ability to mitigate that in real time before we get, before any real issues come up. Okay, water. We're going to have 5 main water station locations, okay? The 5 stations are each going to compose of a series of what they're called as water monsters. They're basically giant water refill stations, and they're going to be serviced 24 hours. We're going to have 5 locations: VIP, Concert Bowl, 2 in the vendor village, 1 at car camping. People are going to be able to get fresh, clean drinking water at this site 24 hours a day. We are going to have a tanker truck constantly servicing them. I take hydration very seriously, especially as an outdoor event. In the summer, in the heat, if I keep people hydrated, I keep them safe, they keep having fun, it's a successful event. Currently, we're anticipating having 2 6,000-gallon tanks on site. We're probably going to increase that, which we're happy to do. As was mentioned before in our comments, bathrooms and hand washing stations, I believe we have a more than adequate number of bathrooms and hand washing stations. We also have them placed throughout the parking areas in the concert site. This is something that we take also very seriously. Patrons need to have easy, flawless access to bathrooms, restrooms. That's what makes outdoor events fun, okay? I'm not having them wait in lines. We are going to have an on-site shower trailer. Actually, we're going to have 4 trailers. Each trailer is going to have 16 showers per trailer. Rough metrics is basically 768 people per hour in these shower trailers. If you need to take a shower, if you're camping, you can get clean. It will be serviced with potable water. It will be staffed. It will be staffed with security. That's part of the concert going experience now. Food trucks, we're going to have about 15 food trucks on site. That's going to include a variety of different dietary options, gluten, vegan-free, barbecue, you name it, we're going to have it. They're going to be placed in vendor village, and all of the food trucks will comply with having a current license with Larimer County Health Department, and they all have to have their own independent fire permit. If you do not have the correct permitting, you do not vend at this event. You're not selling. They have to go through the correct, proper channels to be a food vendor. Waste management. Ooh. We're going to have ample dumpsters available. We're going to have 10 30-yard dumpsters. We're going to have 10 8-yard dumpsters. And we're going to have plenty of actual stream-designated waste receptacles throughout the site. We're going to have composting on site, we're going to have recycling on site, we're going to have general trash on site. We also have a pretty strict sustainability initiative that we adhere to. So the big thing that I also, as I'm wrapping up, we have a extremely robust emergency evacuation plan. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on is we are in constant contact with EMS, and we are working with Loveland Fire, and we are working with the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department has a copy of our emergency evacuation plan. This event site is well equipped for an evacuation, and we think that the numbers prove that. We have evacuation routes built in. We have a communication waterfall. Everybody will be on radio. You can get a hold of us in the case of an emergency, no questions asked. I know I'm out of time, so I really wanted to address some of the public comments. Can I ask for an additional couple minutes or
No, we'll have a chance for a 5-minute rebuttal after public comment at that time.
Sure.
I can give you another 20 seconds.
Thank you so much for listening to us. I think we have good metrics here. We're really proud of what we do. This event site is perfect for things like this. And thank you.
I wouldn't go anywhere. We might have questions for you. Colleagues, do you have questions for the applicant? Commissioner Stevens.
I'll wait till after the public comment happens.
Commissioner Kafalis.
Yeah, I'll ask a couple of questions. I appreciate that AEG Presents is a worldwide company, and it's apparent that you have a lot of experience doing concert venues, and you have standard metrics that you use to ensure the success and the safety of folks attending the concerts. It seems to me the examples that you gave are venues that are suited for concerts, whether it's 10,000 or 20,000, whether it's Fiddler's Green, Red Rocks, the Convention Center, et cetera. So I guess one of the questions I have, Ned, is this site is not an approved site for a concert venue, and therefore, how do your standard metrics apply here when it's different than doing a 20,000 person concert at the convention center, for example?
Sure. One of my events that I produce, sorry, did you have another question? I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's best to do one question at a time.
One event I do is Jazz Aspen, which is a rural, it's in the mountains, it's in a valley. It's a very similar site to this site, actually. It is on a field. It has its own challenges. It has its own obstacles. Another event I do is the Global Dance event, which is just a giant parking lot / field. The metrics that I've provided are more robust than the metrics that we use in the venues. I amplify things for all of these outdoor events. You know, when you are constructing a venue, you have to go the extra mile to make it safe. I got one shot to make it. If I don't get to do it anymore. So those metrics that I provided you are not venue-based metrics. They're actually outdoor event-based metrics. These are festival metrics. I bring in more infrastructure than traditional venues, and I have to look at all of these things, all of these variables, because every site that I work on outside of a venue is different. This one has its own opportunities and it has its own challenges. That's part of the gig.
May I?
Sure, I have.
Just a little bit more. and
Yeah,
then
I have
we-
some
we
too.
should- Yeah, so, thank you. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. We keep referencing 13,500 concert goers, but we're looking at an additional 450 volunteers, 50 security guards, and then I don't know how many, 100 or 200 food vendors. So we are actually looking at, over 14,000, 14 to 14,500 as far as people on the site. Is that an accurate representation?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Maybe my last question, the whole, we're very concerned around here about wildfires
Yes.
and natural disasters. I'm sure you're aware that we've had some pretty big ones lately, the last couple of years. And I've been on that road, both of those roads, 27 and 29. I'm trying to visualize how, if there was a wildfire, how we would get 14,000 people out of there, because both of those roads are, one-lane roads, and they're kind of windy, and if you have RVs and all the rest of it, I still can't visualize how that would happen. And also, forgive me, Ned, one of the concerns with regard to the first review criterion is that in terms of compatibility, if I'm remembering right, is that there's at least two other really big events. One is a bike touring event that I think actually uses County Road 27, and you've suggested that you would close it off, so there seems to be a bit of a conflict there. So I wonder if you could speak to that. That's a really big deal.
Yeah, so the wildfire is the first thing I'm going to speak to. We have opened up a dialogue with Loveland Fire, and we are already started that conversation with staffing an additional engine on site and an additional wildlands team. Directly to the west of the event site, there is actually a canal that runs parallel to the event. That is nothing that I'm going to bet money on, but it is a bit of a moisture barrier. And also, we're going to be in direct contact with Loveland Fire all the time. And I have made it very clear in communicating with them, if there is something that they see that is unsafe, if there's a fire ban, if there is an impending wildfire, at their directive, we're out of there. If they come to me and they say, hey, look, there's a situation, we work with local fire municipalities all the time, and the rule of thumb is you listen to them because they know more than you do. If they say there's a dangerous incoming issue, we're going to be ahead of it. So, yeah, we're going to have extra fire support specifically for wildfire mitigation. The other thing you asked about was the conflicting events. Did you have a follow-up to the wildfire? Sorry.
I'm good.
The conflicting events is it sounds like the majority of the issue has to do with traffic easement and traffic impact. The show is on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're going to allow early entry and people to get on site and set up on Thursday, which means the majority of the traffic impact is going to happen on Thursday and Friday morning. Saturday is not an impactful day for us. So Friday afternoon is going to be we're not going to have a huge line that goes all the way out. Ingress is Thursday afternoon, Friday morning. That's the majority of the traffic. The other events that I've heard about they don't raise any real staffing alarm with me. If we need to work with CDOT and get our road closure dialed in, and have an adequate turnaround point or put up more signage, we're happy to do that. That's part of the plan.
Okay, then I have a few. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Ned. I appreciate your genuine efforts to respond to my questions. I do. Two more questions that I think are important. Well, one is, in the past, when there have been events, festivals at the Sunrise Ranch, they've been billed as family events. Curious, what kind of music festival, if you're allowed to say, what kind of music festival will this be?
This is going to be a multi-genre music festival.
Multi-genre.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then my last question is, I appreciate very much that there will be at least 4 toilets that are ADA compliant. Maybe there are more, forgive me. And that's very important. So folks can have access to the portable toilets. Given that this venue is grassed, what other accommodations will be made? So if there are folks attending the concert, well, if they're, yes, and they're in wheelchairs, depending on the grass and what kind of grass and all of that, what accommodations will there be so that people can have mobility options?
We will be providing what we kind of call a limo care service. Basically, we're going to have a designated ADA section at each stage. And if patrons show up and they're unable to get to those stages, we're going to provide some means of transportation to get them, whether it's a golf cart ride that is safely managed, a alternative gate that has direct access to these viewing areas. A big part of my job is managing ADA expectations, and I take it very seriously.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have a few questions, and then I might have some more later, but I'll go ahead before a public comment. And before I ask my questions, Leslie, is it appropriate for us to ask questions of referral agencies before public comment, or should we wait till after public comment would be your recommended?
I would probably say after public comment at this
Okay.
point. If you don't mind, since I have the microphone for a
Yeah.
moment, I was just going to offer to Ned too and to the commissioners that if you will email your presentation to Shalane and me, we'll print some copies while you're hearing from the public, and then we should be able to then display it during the rebuttal period too. So we'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leslie. So I have a few questions now. I might have some more later. And one of them was to build off of your conversation. The questions that Commissioner Kafals asked was, you mentioned a lot of events that were, looked like they were inside structures that were designed for this. And you mentioned the kind of field for a global thing. I don't know whether that was on a Eastern Plains or in a mountain foothills. And I know approximately where the Aspen one was. I've heard of that one. But I'm curious, how many of these have you done, just those two examples? And did you do them about the same time of year when it's pretty much our old peak fire season, now we have year-round fire season, but this is a critical time for fire season?
Yeah, actually, Jazz Aspen is the weekend directly after it. It's the same type of fire danger. It's the same type of year. It is. The shrubbery is slightly different. Obviously, we're at a different location, but we do have to do some grass mitigation. We will be doing grass mitigation here. We're going to mow the grass. But this type of grass is a, low shrub kind of ranch. Jazz Aspen has a mix of actual turf and natural grasses. So we're going to address it as a complete natural grass plain and do the according mowing.
So with that comment, and I'll just be clear and transparent with the public, is that's my district. Mm-hmm. I live in unincorporated parts of Larimer County, so I don't live close to that area, but I'm very, very, very familiar with that area. Mm-hmm. And I am familiar with the vegetation and the grasses, so I am concerned about that. I see the recommendation from the fire department about smoking designated areas. I haven't heard one thing mentioned about smoking or lack of smoking or how we're going to look at that, because I am concerned about the grass. It is starting to get pretty crispy then, and I know that because I have a large piece. And I'm wondering, I haven't heard any mitigation or talking about smoking and mitigation for that and that kind of plan for that.
Yeah, so currently we are planning on having a designated, marked with signage smoking section. However, I have spoken with Loveland Fire. If there is a fire ban or if there is a issue or if they're concerned about it, we will remove the smoking section, no questions asked.
So the fire ban would be, unless it's, kind of comes from our office and kind of our emergency services. So that, I'll build off of that question. You mentioned that you're going to have an extra engine or extra emergency services while on fire, but that comes from resources from the taxpayers. So are you going to be paying for those resources being there? And then we know that those events that weekend are several conflicting events which are already straining those resources. So you're looking to further strain the resources by having extra units there. Is that correct?
We are looking to employ them, yes, to keep the event safe.
And so the Sheriff's Department, Emergency Services, Wildland Fire is under the Sheriff's Department, which sound like they already stated that they were going to have troubles matching or meeting that. So do you have a backup plan for another kind of, fire response, since that might be a strain for that weekend?
If it's a strain for that weekend, we would look to those agencies directly for recommendations of if they are okay with outsourcing from an outside district. But it is this district, it would be at their directive.
So let's go back to the area. That is the hogbacks.
Yes.
And like I said, I live in the area, I know how the sound bounces around. And I hear this discussion of these mitigation measures, and you said you were bouncing the information off the wall, off of the hogback and coming back off the ridge. And so So you talked about mitigation members, you're going to do kind of this sound mitigation. I'm curious, when you're bouncing it off, and there's people around, and you're going to try to do that before, when you're bouncing it off of a mountain, and how are you going to keep it from bouncing back and up and north? And I didn't know if you could, and I have another question for that. So I'm wondering about how we address that.
Can Zach answer that question?
Yep.
Hello again. This is Ryan, CEO for Brown Note. He's our production company vendor for the show. There are a lot of new technologies that we use, phasing and stuff like this, to develop and encompass the festival site without bleeding over too much. Maybe he can speak to some of the direct things you are asking.
Hello, thank you. So what we do is we actually take Google Earth, and we use a program called DMB Audio Technique Array Calc and Noise Calc. And what these systems do is they take the topographical map and the terrain, and we actually go in and physically tell it what it is. Is it grass? Is it trees? Is it concrete? Is it a building structure? So we go in and we actually physically model the area, and it directly talks to our software, which we predict our systems to serve the patrons, right? So our speakers are pointed at people to make sure that the levels are appropriate for them and are safe levels, and that are going to cover them with the full concert experience. Well, in that software, we use that software in conjunction with the noise calc and the topographical map that we pull directly from Google Earth, and we render that. So we put the speakers into the system, we tell them where they're going to be, we give them an atmospheric temperature, we give them a humidity, right? So we're actually looking at atmospheric predictions as well as the topographical map. So when we render that, we actually can render that, and it will show SPL coverage not only inside the venue, but what that does externally of the venue, because we know that sound finds a way to travel wherever it pleases, right? It's just the nature of the way physics of sound works. But in this prediction software, we can change it. So we can say, you know what, Ned, you need to turn that stage 3 degrees. Because when we turn that 3 degrees, we actually get a 10 dB drop behind the stage, which is our nearest, occupancy, right? So we can look at those things. We've already done a map. We've done a general map for AEG to predict our initial concept of how these stages are going to sit and how they're going to directly affect noise pollution within the surrounding areas. They can show that to you. We actually do have that. But the nice thing is we can adapt that on site too. So if for some reason we got on site and the wind changed, right, we can make modifications. We're not limited to what we've already designed, right? This is part of doing concert sound in this day and age. It is highly adaptable. I can tell it at the back of the house that I want it to be 80 dB. And I can do that by predicting the software, right? So this technology is unique to the systems that we provide. It is called DMB Audio Technique. It is a German manufacturer. They basically came up with this because they have very strict noise ordinances in Europe and the UK, right? I mean, very strict, probably 5 times as strict as we do here. And they put these things in municipalities that are really tight, downtown civic parks, things like that. So this came up and was brought to the industry because we need to make sure we take care of the surrounding areas. And that's what we're focused on doing.
So let me build on that. I have concerns because that is a major wildlife corridor. And I serve on, Open Lands Advisory Board. I have been sitting on some codecs and some meetings where we have done some overlay mapping. I know where those patterns are and where the kind of winter or summer, all those patterns. I haven't heard anybody mention anything about the birds or the migrating elk herd and other wildlife, and they are going to be sensitive to this, especially with that many folks. So I haven't heard any mitigation or discussion about the wildlife. You talked about environmental, but I'm only hearing about the neighbors right next door, but we have other neighbors that I'm just really, truly concerned about the impacts from that, since it's a multi-day festival.
Yeah, I would say that, the animals know where to be and where not to be, right? We don't affect their habitat in a way that negatively impacts their lives, right?
Well,
So I do festival events all over the country.
But they're there first, and so you are negatively
Yes.
impacting them, and they know where they can and can't be, but they're there in that valley before 13,000 people
Of
come
course
through.
they are, yes. And I think, looking at that, we don't generally have wildlife within the, I would say, impact zone, right? The things directly in front of the stage, where we're going to maintain this level of SBL coverage, right? So that being said, we can predict on those property lines, of where you're going to see more of that wildlife to actually physically predict, hey, it's 50 dB, right? Well, the wind blows at 65 dB, right? So we can look at those things and model that, and that is shown in our documentation that we've presented for ADG.
And did you look at any of the agricultural properties, because these are properties that usually have horses and other wild, animals like I do, so have you thought about and looked at how you're going to not disturb people's,
Yeah.
horses and cows and chickens and bees and things like that?
Absolutely, and that's more in the prediction models of making sure that we contain the sound to the venue, right? We do not spill the sound elsewhere, and I'm very concerned over that because my wife is heavy into horseback riding, so it is very, very important to me to make sure that those things are addressed.
And what's in mitigation, so you talked about all the sounds of the concerts, but I haven't heard any talk about mitigation for the 13,000 people making noise. You can't stop that.
No, you can't stop that, but we do find that their levels, their peak level is a much shorter time.
4 days.
4 days. Yes, 4 days, but just a couple of woohoos throughout their favorite songs. That's all we got.
Okay, well, I have some concerns about that.
Excuse me, I would just like to say, we can look at doing further impact studies.
Well, I think that.
On these nature.
Yeah, I
habitats
think
and
that
what you're looking
that
at.
should have been kind of something that should have been addressed in the original application, quite frankly, because this is a wildlife, important area, and there's plenty of mapping out there to show that, and also as a wildfire hazard area. So, we can talk about that, but I appreciate you answering my questions, because I don't know, I haven't heard about how we mitigate 13,000 people in that noise. So, Mr. Ned, I have a different question for you. You said you had only, well, first let's talk about the cyclists and closures of a road. I happen to know because I have bike races in front of my house all the time. There's a lot of cyclists who train out in that area, and are you going to be closing it to those folks as well? And they do train every day of the week, and there's a lot of packs and groups, and are you going to be impacting that, and have you looked into how you're going to mitigate, so these people don't have to stop their training exercises because of this festival?
So we're not going to close the road to local traffic and cyclists. We're going to close the road on County Road 29 northbound after an appropriate turnaround point to concert goers. If you live there, if you train there, if you're riding a bike, if you are going up that road, you can go through the site. Inversely, if you are north of the event site and you're going south and you are coming down County Road 29, you can go all the way through the event. If you are a general motorist, if you're riding your motorcycle on a Saturday ride, and you come down south, we're not going to stop you from going through that direction. So no, we're not going to stop cyclists. We're not going to stop their training.
And so I'm just curious, because I still haven't quite heard about how you're going to mitigate for this extra traffic, because with cyclists and training, there has been some pretty newsworthy deaths of cyclists and with traffic that was not properly managed in the history of this area and a little bit east of Loveland. So I'm just curious, have you looked into that and thought about that? And because that is a very frequent area.
Yeah, I can tell you that we are going to build a robust traffic plan that you.
So you have not built that yet?
No, we have not built that.
Okay. I think that's what will go. And then you talked about you only have two right now, 6,000 gallon tanks currently planned?
That is the current recommendation.
Okay.
Yes.
right, and you keep saying this is kind of perfect for this type of event, but this hasn't really been done very often, so I'm not sure what you mean by perfect. What do you mean by perfect for this type of event?
It's got wonderful ground coverage. It's got a wonderful natural amphitheater. It has on-site parking. It has access to wonderful amenities. It's located in an area that is within decent proximity to a wonderful little city, but we're kind of tucked in this little valley. Loveland is right there. Fort Collins is right next door, but you go on that side of the hogback and you feel like you're in another planet. If we go too far out, we're too far away from emergency services. If we're too far in, then we impact on local communities and neighborhoods. This is right in the sweet spot for maintaining an event of this size.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all I have for right now. I'll probably have some more colleagues. Do you have any other things you want to build on what I asked? Okay, well then I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and open it for public comment and then a few minutes for a rebuttal, and then I think I might have some questions for the referral agencies. But I appreciate your presentation and answering my questions. Thank you very much, and thank you to you answering my questions too. So I think we'll have you sit down. We'll go ahead and open for public comment. Looking at the time and knowing we have a few folks and we have some other questions, I think we'll just leave this for 2 minutes per person for public comment. And as discretion of the chair, I'm going to do that. And so, Leslie, I wonder how many people we have signed up in person and how many people signed up online.
All right, we have 10 people signed up in person, and let me take a look online and see if we have one attendee online. If that person is wishing to make comments, please raise your hand. And at this point, I'm not seeing that, but we can come back and ask that question again. So I would suggest maybe we go to the folks in the room and start with them.
That's what I was thinking too, but sounds like we only have one person listening online,
Yes.
so, okay.
Correct.
So, as I said, we'll be having 2 minutes per person, so if you please approach to the podium of the speaker there and identify yourself where you live, and then we'll help you. The timer will be up on the screen here to help you kind of look at that time. So this time I will call, I think I can see this as Mr. Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell, 100 Sunrise Ranch Road, Loveland, Colorado, 80538. Amazing, thoughtful questions that have really, really hit home for me in a great way. Obviously, I can't speak for AEG or to any of the bigger of considerations or the timing, the specific timing of this event. I can only speak for the community. In fact, I'm not even authorized to do that. But what I really want to say and express is our sincere desire to not only work closely with Larimer County, but to cooperate with our neighbors and meet their concerns and produce a safe and community benefiting event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Ryan Knutson, you're on deck, or you're up for speaking. You have 2 minutes, and then person on coming. Oh, okay, great. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to try to, I recognize you, but if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, I wanted not to try to pronounce your name correctly.
Thank you for that. My name's Kayahieva. I've been with Sunrise Ranch for 11 years now. Of course, experienced Arise Music Festival. The producers of that are amazing men that are here, and they care for the community, they care for the surrounding community. And we're in collaboration with them, I feel, because we want to use the land as an extension of Northern Colorado to serve its community, to bring interstate migration, diverse ages of generations, businesses, jobs. Arise Music Festival did that, and we want to continue that. Our neighbors were looked at, we were looked at in new ways, locally and internationally, statewide and internationally. So I recently joined the Leadership Northern Colorado program, and we got this huge download of stats of what we want to look at in Northern Colorado. And I feel that these kinds of festivals and events that bring diversity to Northern Colorado are a gift. And I'm thankful to be part of Sunrise Ranch in doing that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have Phil Gatula. I hope I have pronounced that correctly. And then Jane, if you could be ready to come up after Phil. Welcome.
Phil Gatula, you got it right. I'm the owner of Flex Productions. We're an event rental company up here in northern Colorado. We produce small events to large events for the past 20 years, and I've been in the events industry for 25 years. I have worked on previous events at this venue also with some of the producers here. I just pretty much wanted to come and speak of the professionalism of working with these producers in the past, from Global Dance Festival to plenty of other events that we help produce. So from the infrastructure standpoint of supplying shade tenting and other VIP structures and stuff like that, I don't have any concerns as far as the professionalism and how these guys are coming together with the event and producing it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Jane.
You're not going to try the last name.
We've been here, I've been here for a while, and
It's all right.
so, but thank you.
My name is Jane Anna Trini, 831 West 5th Street in Loveland, Colorado. I am a chiropractor, and I'm a minister at Sunrise Ranch. I am a Rotarian, and I am part of Live Loveland. And I raise those things only because I want you to know in all the venues that I serve, people are saying, when are you going to get the music back? They so enjoyed the Arise Festival. And like Kiahi, I've worked with Paul and Tiero for years. I find them to be respectable, professional, and honorable men, and I support them using our venue for another music festival.
Thank you. Okay, Diana DeWinton.
I'll pass.
Thank you. And now we have Megan. Go ahead and introduce yourself again. Thank you.
Sure. Megan Otis, Stadium Medical. As I mentioned briefly, we've been working with AEG Presents for many, many years in these endeavors. Most recently, as Ned mentioned, the Jazz Fest up in Aspen and Seven Peaks out in Valley Grove. So we're very accustomed to traveling, and we will be providing several people for this combination of EMT, paramedics, a physician on site to cover the medical needs of the festival 24 hours a day. In addition to some dedicated transport resources in order to mitigate the impact on the local EMS jurisdiction. Work in conjunction with Thompson Valley EMS to make that happen in planning phases in attempts to keep it contained and everybody happy and safe. We'll work on communication plans. We have communication tactics to go across the state. In the event of a big incident, something like that, will fall into the communication plan. So we'll have all those plans and logistics worked out ahead of time. Just wanted to provide some context as to our support in general. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Charlie Stifler.
Hi, Charlie Stifler. I'm the operations manager for events for Stadium Medical. I want to speak to the traffic plan as far as the ingress and egress. I work with many different bike rides that you guys actually have in your community, most notably Bike MS. I'm very familiar with 27 and 29. I have reasonable expectations that we'll be able to manage the southern neighborhood and using that for only as emergency access. I am also extremely comfortable with the plan that Ned has provided us with the access off of 27 onto 29 from the north. I look forward to being back in the community for this event in August, and I wish you have a good night.
Thank you. Clayton Nunez, I hope I pronounced that. I
Madam
apologize.
Chair, Commissioners, my name is Clayton Nunes. I represent Eden Valley Institute, which is the immediate neighbor to, our property is adjacent to the venue. And I'm here on behalf of Eden Valley and all the residents there. We're about 50 people living on our campus. The nature of what we do is faith-based, and we have a wellness center. Needless to say that we would be heavily impacted by this event, which means that based on the promise of sound mitigation, that means a promise is not enough for us to simply conduct our business, which is wellness and retreat for people that come from all over the country and from other parts of the world. to receive treatments. And so when this kinds of events happen, we cannot conduct business. We have to shut down our campus. And I agree that this is a perfect venue for this kind of event, but it's also a perfect venue for what we do, because we tucked in the valley, as he said. And by being tucked in a valley, all the access to the event will also heavily impact our mobility, because that's the only access we have, especially knowing that the other side would not be used for the event. So regarding the canal, we had an experience not too long ago in which we had to evacuate. So the canal is not wide enough to hold a wildfire. So to hold a wildfire, we had actually our property was the station for the fire department when we had to evacuate. So they were working from our property. And regarding the smoking, I don't know, I have 5 seconds. Yes, people will have a restricted area, but nothing will hold them from going to our side of our property. And if we have to improve our security, that's another area we have to be concerned about.
Thank you for wrapping that up. I appreciate that. Thank you. And lastly, we have Chanel Fisher. I apologize. It's.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Everyone, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for the presentations. And I do represent Eden Valley as well. As my colleague mentioned, several of the things that in the past that this institute has experienced, and some of the difficulties, as was mentioned, is how do we operate at that time? Some of the concerns that were brought up as it relates to the sound, the decibels, and the control. And with our operations, it definitely affects us directly. We're adjacent to the event. And some of the people that comes that we serve there, we've had issues where we're almost not having people coming, and that's a main part of our operations. And so this has been a little bit difficult to understand and to even think on how we would operate in this time. We've definitely had experiences where our homes are shaking during these events, and so directly, this is a very difficult one. We especially with our neighbors, we do respect all the activities that goes on, but we're trying to understand how would we function properly in this time period, because we've had difficulties in the past, and so we're very concerned.
And could you pronounce your name again, just for the
Yes,
the clerk?
Shaniel, like Danielle, Shaniel.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, that was all we had signed up. So, Leslie, you want to see who's online if they'd like to speak?
Okay, we have one person on Zoom, and I will ask the question again if that person on Zoom would like to make any comments. Now is a good time to raise your hand. And seeing none, I think we can probably move on.
Okay, thank you. So I will go, I know everyone's signed up. I will allow some folks from the audience to go ahead and to speak for 2 minutes. Come up and please introduce yourself. If you have a difficult to pronounce name, please spell it for the clerk. And thank you for coming up.
Yes, thank you. My name is Paul Bassis, spelled Bassis, and I was the co-founder and producer of the Arise Music Festival for all 7 years that it took place at Sunrise Ranch. And I just want to provide a little bit of historical context. The Arise Music Festival applied for a special event permit 7 times and was approved by by Larimer County all 7 times. And with regards to the issue of sound, it was after the 6th year of Arise that it was brought to our attention, really for the first time, that a number of community members within a reach of the site were upset about the sound. And so we met with them, we listened to them, we met with Leah of the County Health Department, and we mitigated that issue by implementing a number of mitigation measures, which the gentlemen with AEG Production have now built a much more robust, as Ned had referred to it, sound mitigation plan. But one of the key points that was implemented was to stop the main stage sound at 11 o'clock on Friday and Saturday night of the festival, and Sunday night as well. And because most of the people who were upset about the sound felt that after midnight it was a little too much. And so we listened to them and we complied with what was being asked, because we had intended at that time to continue to do events at Sunrise Ranch.
And your time's up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please come up and state your name. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Tiero Lee. I just wanted to there was a little clarity. Chair, you asked a question earlier of Ms. Ellis about the capacity of the previous event, and I believe her response was the capacity was 9,000 ticket holders. And I just wanted to clarify that the previous event, the capacity was 13,500 attendees total presence, and there was a delineation that of those 13,500, 9,000 would be ticket holders, but the total capacity was 13,500, and that was approved. And I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Also, on that capacity note, I wanted to just remind the chair and everybody here that the Arise Festival was approved for 7 years in a row, and for the last 3 approvals in 2017, 18, and 19. The attendance levels was well over 10,000 and into 13,000 for the more than 2 of those events. And then the other thing I wanted to address was the sound, and that in 2018 there were issues with the sound, and we really acknowledge that. We did a lot of efforts to mitigate it, and I just brought a few letters from residents, many of who were very opposed to the sound, who were really grateful for the changes, acknowledged the changes were made, and they were really happy about that. And they sent those letters to y'all, and these are just copies of those if you'd like to see
Yeah,
them.
and if they're in our packet, we don't need to see those copies. So
They would have been from last year, so they would not be in your, I'm sorry, they would have been from 2019, so they would not be in your packet now.
Okay. So are you done with your comment?
I'm sorry?
Are you done with your comment?
Yes.
Okay. So if you can, I'm not sure, I guess, Leslie, how would we handle that if he wanted to submit those 2 letters for public comment if they're previous? I'm not sure if I'm not going to allow that, I think, because that was something you could have submitted with the current packet. So we're going to pause on that just until I ask my staff about how we can accept those letters or not.
Yeah, I just wanted to show that
Okay.
there was positive.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Frank?
I think the best thing to do is if he wants to submit them, he can submit them and make them part of the record. He can hand them to Miss Ellis, and then you can give them what weight you determine is appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Okay, last call for public comment. Come on up and please address the mic and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Michael Rodriguez. I'm the maintenance manager at Sunrise Ranch, and I attended Sunrise Ranch's music festival at Arise 7 years in a row. And the first year that I attended it, I brought my 1-year-old child, and it was a very family-friendly, safe festival that I encourage people to go to experience creativity and growth. And I just want to say that I'm in full support of Sunrise Ranch's approach towards this, and I feel that It is the safest music festival that I've ever attended, and I've been to ones across the country because I teach yoga at music festivals around the country. And so I just wanted to share my view on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to close public comment. Okay. So Leslie, at this point, would it be better to have us ask questions of the referral agencies or wait and let the applicant do the rebuttal and then ask referral agencies? How would you think it would be best to?
Referral agencies may be a good idea in case there's something that comes up that the applicant would like to respond to.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I just wanted to kind of make sure. So, would we have them just come up? Should we ask them, have them come up, we have questions, or have them each come up? Because there are several that I think.
So they're here just for questions.
Okay.
None of them are here with a specific presentation. So they're here if you would like to call them up with a question.
So colleagues, do you have questions for the multiple referral agencies? Commissioner Kafalis.
Yes, I believe that there are folks from the Larimer County Sheriff's Office here, and I would have some, if I'm wrong on that, I just would like to ask questions regarding the evacuation plan that was submitted, and from the emergency services standpoint, do you feel like those issues are being addressed adequately in regards to the review criterion 7.5.1?
So Brad Harkin at the Larimer County Sheriff's Office. I'm a lieutenant in charge of the special operations. I have not seen a updated or revised evacuation plan, and I'm not sure if Director Whitesell has seen it as well.
I'm wondering, and what is your name again? Forgive me.
Brad Harkin.
Of course, yes. I'm wondering, in regard to 7.5.4, for example, one of the comments of the Sheriff's Office is to consider another date, because there are other events, the evacuation plan for up to 14,000 people. If I may, another issue that comes to my mind is that the issue of smoking. But since there'll be so many people camping, will there be? I would imagine that the sheriff's emergency services recommend that there are no campfires, there's no cooking, or how? Could you speak to any of those, sir?
I think as far as the fire side goes, we'd have to rely on Loveland Fire as well as our emergency services with that type of fire ban, but it is not uncommon to be in some sort of fire restriction at that time of the year. So that would pose a problem to camping or contained fires on the property. And as far as you talked about the evacuation side, I appreciate the size of the events that AEG and Ned has ran, but again, the events he's running are a lot different than what we've seen here. There's a boots on the ground perspective. I've been involved in evacuations for High Park Fire, the 2013 floods, Cameron Peak Fire. Evacuating the entire town of Estes Park during Cameron Peak, as well as the Marshall Fire down in Boulder County. And when we're trying to evacuate that many people, one lane in, one lane out is going to be problematic. I see that at Budweiser Event Center, where I also work, is when during construction this year, we've had our normal operating procedure reduced in what we can do as far as the traffic flow goes. Not only do we have to get out the 13 to 14,000 people that are at the event, but we have to get out the surrounding community. So if we're trying to get 13,000 people off of Sunrise Ranch or from the Arise Festival, we're probably also evacuating Masonville and the surrounding communities and everything else around there. We're gonna have to factor in that piece of it as well as how many people can we take, and all it takes is one vehicle to break down, and all of a sudden we have a 2-lane road down to 1-lane road for 15 to 20,000 people we're trying to evacuate, and quite possibly in a hurry. And the Marshall Fire was an eye-opener for us is how we do evacuations, because even though we saw fire growth in the Cameron Peak Fire, spread 17 miles overnight, Marshall Fire did that in a matter of hours. And if we saw a wind event, just because it's not blowing wind at in Masonville or at the Sunrise Ranch, 15 miles away, we could be experiencing some sort of wind, which is going to push that fire closer to us. So the boots on the ground is very concerning to me as far as how we get that many people out of that area, and not only for the event, but the surrounding community as well. When we talk about the resources, we do have a lot of other events going on. The Overland Expo at the ranch complex, the Corn Roast Festival, I believe, in Loveland is going to be happening that same weekend. I think the bike ride is at the Venus de Miles, I think, or something that's going to be rolling around. But the biggest consumer is the CSU football games. Mountain West Conference has not scheduled all their games yet. So we don't know if there's going to be a CSU game that weekend. But in general, that takes about 100 cops to run a CSU game. And that comes from Fort Collins, Loveland, Larimer County, and surrounding communities as well. So if the Mountain West schedules a game that weekend, our resources for that weekend as far as sheriff's office and surrounding law enforcement, Loveland, Fort Collins, Estes Park, everybody who we rely on for that mutual aid is going to be it's going to be problematic to staff.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I greatly appreciate your comments, sir.
Yeah. Anything else for?
No, my questions have been answered. Thank you.
Hi, Lieutenant Harkin. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Thank you. You mentioned a lot of things about the evacuation, the boots on the ground, and I'm very aware of how things were going during the Cameron Peak Fire in that area. We also have on 34 just a lot of traffic going up and back and forth to Rocky Mountain National Park because that's kind of a peak time, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's kind of a concern. Have you guys thought about traffic? I know sometimes it's hard to turn right or left off of that intersection. So do you see, is the sheriff's office concerned with kind of that mitigation of that intersection? Would that require extra? Even if they say they're having a 4-day festival, there's still probably people coming and going, and is there some concerns about that intersection?
It's going to be concerning to maintain it. Again, schools in session, so some schools are, but there is still a lot of just normal traffic going up and down the highway. Without an emergency, I think that can be mitigated.
Okay.
With the proper traffic control.
And so you guys have not seen an evacuation plan yet?
I haven't seen if there's been an updated one.
Okay.
I believe they were supposed to have a meeting, Ned, was it last week or?
Yes, and
well, he can talk about that with rebuttal. So,
okay.
I think that's all I have right now. So if they were talking about having some emergency services or wildland unit there, heaven forbid we have some fires we're putting out, those would not be available. We would have all hands on deck for emergency services to be responding to a fire. Like last year we had 52 fires. We kept them all under 300 acres, which was 100%, which was phenomenal and unheard of. I think it's just phenomenal. So that would be something that would take priority, correct?
We'd have to figure out the priority if we have hired hands at the festival and if we did have a fire somewhere in the county.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions? Okay, great, thank you. Colleagues, do you have any other folks you'd like to have referral agency? I was going to have fire department.
Loveland Fire
Yeah, I was going to have
Rescue
Loveland
here.
Fire.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from them.
Loveland Fire, I was going to have Loveland Fire Fire Rescue Authority. Would you mind coming to the podium, please? Thank you. Identifying yourself. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here the whole evening so far. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Carrie Dan. I'm the fire marshal with Loveland Fire Rescue Authority.
Great. Commissioner Stevens, since you had questions too, would you mind, I'll have you go first.
Yeah, so thank you, Fire Marshal. Thank you for being here. One of the things that was sort of bolded in the material we received was that you needed the AEG or to resubmit some of the documents. Is that correct? Was there inadequate information contained in? Okay. Have you seen a resubmittal or any kind of response to that? It seems like we might have actually received something, but I don't know if you have.
So there were documents that were submitted Friday afternoon. I was traveling for work today and was not in the office, not available to review them. That being said, they're supposed to be sent from the planner who sends out the project. So instead of reviewing documents offline, everybody's reviewing the same documents. We don't want to have separate documents that somebody is reviewing, somebody's not. So I have not seen the resubmittal, but should be forthcoming.
Sure, okay. And then with regard to being able to have an engine there, is that something that do you know anything about the possibility of that, given that there are other events happening in the community?
Correct. It would be a significant challenge for us to staff something 24/7, potentially during the day. But again, as we've been talking about, depending on where our resources is and our needs, we would certainly try to make it happen. No guarantees, again, depending on what's going on at that time of year. The lieutenant mentioned the Overland Expo, which is about 18,000 people. Corn Roast Festival, about 18,000 people. Venus de Miles Bike Ride, which goes up Glade Road, 38E, 27, and 29, and crosses 34. With all of those events simultaneously to provide emergency medical services, fire services, and ongoing inspections would be a pretty significant challenge for us.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Gonzalez, any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Fire Marshal. Looking at the letter that you provided in the packet, it looks like there are 25, there are a number of questions and proposed conditions of approval. Are you, at this point in time, have those questions been addressed, or are you aware that they've been addressed?
Not that I have seen.
Thank you.
All right.
I have questions. I'll let my colleagues go first
Okay.
as chair. So can you remind me, I think I know the answer to this, what is the, that area in that valley, what is the the level of risk, or is it labeled a moderate or high wildfire risk area?
It depends on where you are, but it's going to be moderate or high.
For that particular area?
Correct.
Okay. And then I see, so 16 and 17 on your information in the packet, they haven't really specified where there would be portable fire extinguishers or how they be identified, so that hasn't been addressed, correct?
Not that I've seen yet.
And also, there's no smoking signs or specific smoking areas in the event of a countywide burn ban or burn restriction. The smoking would be prohibited entirely. That hasn't been addressed or a plan submitted for that kind of.
I believe there might have been, and Ned might want to correct me, I think the updated drawing was supposed to show the smoking areas, the designated smoking areas.
Okay. So the fire station that's just down the road, I think it's seven. I know 10's out in Johnstown, 7. And then the school. 7, would it be, how busy is 7 during the tourist season and that time of year with accidents and things? Because I know they would probably think it's just down the road, but they're actually pretty much busy all the time responding to, everyday activities as just with tourist season and normal activities?
That's our busier time of year out there, yes. So whether vehicle accidents, fires, water rescues, that area of our jurisdiction, that's the busy time of year there.
Okay. That's what my understanding was. Okay. I think that's all we have right now. I appreciate you answering our questions. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Colleagues, do you have any other referral agencies you'd like to ask? Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Leah Schneider maybe a question about, and I don't know if this is in your purview, but we'll give it a stab and maybe so with sort of heat exhaustion kind of stuff that might happen kind of in late summer, and, you know, I mean, obviously keeping people hydrated is really important, but there's also alcohol involved too, right? I think that there's going to be alcohol permits that were requested. So that may require a little bit more water, you know, not necessarily my experience, but what I've heard. Do we have, are there tents, are there blowing fans, are there misting? Is there anything that's recommended sort of in those kind of circumstances to help with kind of heat stuff, or we just recommend that there's enough water for people?
We do, well, and actually on their site plan, they have shade tents to kind of help mitigate some of that sun exposure. But you're right, there's going to be alcohol consumption on site. There will also be elevation if people are coming from out of Colorado, all dehydrating factors. But with the continuous supply of water, and that might be it too, maybe we need a better plan to just, you know, the actual vendor that will provide the water, how frequently they can get in, demonstrate the access in and out to actually refill all the stations. That would solidify availability of water for guests.
Thank you. No, that's helpful. I just was concerned about that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to ask Thompson Valley Emergency Services to come up. Sorry to put you on the spot too, but I had a couple of questions. Thank you for coming. If you wouldn't mind identifying yourself.
Yes, my name is Steve Foreman, Battalion Chief of Thompson Valley EMS. I've been with Thompson Valley EMS for about 20 years. I've been involved in the previous Arise festivals.
Thank you so much. So my question is, we've heard from the Sheriff's Department and the Fire Department, Loveland Fire Rescue Authority. Same question to you all. I know you have a lot of events that weekend. I also toured a couple of your stations recently and talked to your, I think it's your captain or director, I guess. Curious of the same question, do you have concerns about capacity and be able to meet, because I'm assuming they're asking to have one of you parked out there 24/7 too, do you have the capacity to meet the needs of all these events at the same time?
Yes, we do have a number of events going on at the same time. Lieutenant Harkin already talked about some of those. We are going to be stretched a little bit thin that weekend, and the previous festivals that have been out there have also stretched us pretty thin. We've had to bring on extra staffing just to deal with the number of influx of people who are in our community, much less the medical care and transport at times when we were requested to go out there and do that, or if we did a site inspection and found that there were times that we needed to call in ambulances to transport patients. The one thing I will add, since my original comment, is Stadium Medical has reached out to us as we requested at the end of this last week, and has answered a number of our questions we had about on-site care. They have the ability to transport, which will be a relief for us. And I do trust Stadium Medical's experience in dealing with these events in the past outside of our community, and we have worked with them in the past. So on-site medical care, we do feel is in better hands now with Stadium Medical. The request we have is that they continue to keep us involved with the planning of the event and the medical plan of the event. And also that we still have not so much an ambulance crew on site, we'll not be able to staff that, but to have one of our senior officers involved in and also have direct communication with them at times so we know what's going on at the event. Our biggest concern, honestly, is going to be probably twofold. One is going to be access in the area. County Road 27 is our access from Loveland up to the Buckhorn, County Road 44, Otter Road. And those people deserve good medical care regardless if there's an event going on or not. And the congestion around that area, whether it's on when people are coming in, leaving, or going to and fro from the event, can affect our ability to access those areas. Same thing can be true with a motor vehicle accident. The other thing is what we mentioned before, is that we're already going to be stressed thin that weekend. And there's nothing we can do about that, but we can handle it the best we can.
You said you had two concerns, so is those you addressed them?
Yeah, those are both of those.
So if you worked this in the past, was the majority of these heat-related responses, or was there, what was the acuity and severity or frequency of medical needs to the past, if just in general, just kind of a high level?
I would have to kind of speak that anecdotally, and just from experience, I can't give you any certain numbers on that. I would say from my experience, there's probably a combination of probably imbibing in substances was a big contributor. A concern we had with some medical providers where patients were being restrained instead of transporting, and that's when we actually had to step in and say that patients had to be transported. And does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Okay, I appreciate that feedback and information. But is it fair to, I mean, I'm just understanding what you're saying is they've just contacted you the end of last week to kind of have Stadium Medical reach out, but really there's not a formal plan on paper yet? You're still kind of developing the plan if they were going to be working with you?
My understanding is that the plan is still in development. They may have more information on that than I do at this time, but we do appreciate them reaching out to us, and we look forward to working with them on the event. We just ask that we still keep the same spirit of cooperation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that so much, and thank you also for being here this evening and being here for the length of the hearing. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for answering our questions. Colleagues, any further questions? I'm going to ask one of Leslie. Hi, Leslie. So I had a quick question just for a clarification, since that was one of the public comments, just quickly, since I just wanted to clarify. One of the public speakers was mentioning that they were actually approved for 13 or 9, and can you just clear that up before we go to the rebuttal?
Yeah, I think that may have been a misunderstanding on their part, because the findings and resolution from the approval back in 2019 specifically had some conditions attached to it, and one of them was a limitation on the number of ticket sales to a maximum of 9,000 patrons. So if there was actually more people in attendance, that may have not been the intent of the county commissioners at the time. So I'm just citing that out of our findings and resolution from the approval of that event in 2019.
So that had been a condition of approval that might have not been followed, because the condition of approval was 9,000 tickets?
That's what the conditions said.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other referral agencies, colleagues? Okay, then we'll have Ms. Ned come on up for rebuttal, and you have 5 minutes.
All right, good to see everyone.
Excuse me, sorry, can I interrupt? We do have hard copies, I'll pass that on, and if there is anything, Ned, that you'd like to reference in the slides, I can project those up for you now.
Great.
So before you start, let's let her give us those packets so we have them before you get started, because I want you to have your full 5 minutes, trying to be fair, so.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Slides projected?
No, because I'm just
Okay.
going
All right.
to go bullet point and we'll
Okay.
go from there. So So I think you're going to find that all of the comments and questions that were submitted to us, we did answer and provide responses back to the counties through the appropriate means. Director Justin Whitesell does have a copy of our updated emergency response plan that is in his hands. It's for review, and we are more than happy to open the dialogue about our emergency response protocols. The Loveland fire responses were also submitted through Denise and to the fire marshal as well on February 3rd. Those, I can pull them up if we need to, but you're going to see in that detail that all of those questions from Loveland Fire were answered, and we think we have an adequate plan and response for all of those. If there's any specific ones that I could speak to, the wildlands, the wildlands and the wildfire situation and the amendment is a very serious precaution that we're taking with full precautions. We do not want to deviate from that. We understand that is a high-risk situation in this particular site. The staffing, we're going to look to these local districts for staffing options and requests and requirements. That's just kind of the way it goes. I want to talk to them first about what their staffing needs are, what their recommendations are. If we're short in some area, we're going to go and work with them directly and figure out what the required number is. The narrative that I want you guys to understand is that in order for these events to work well, an open dialogue needs to be continuously opened and re-examined with all these entities. There is health department, there is fire, there is EMS, there is sheriff's department, there is local community involvement. We are here to work with whatever kind of parameters you set within us, because that's what makes these things work. And I also want to talk about the neighbors of Sunrise Ranch. The event site is going to be fenced. We're not letting patrons leave and go explore other properties. We want to be respectful neighbors. We are taking pride in some of the new advantages in sound mitigation. I don't want to impact any neighborly negatively. I want people to come back to us and say, hey, thanks for listening to us, and still finding a happy medium here so that we can all get along. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around, but the emergency evacuation pathway, I do want to just point out that we are going to have a primary route into the event, but in the case of an evacuation, we would have two routes out. County Road 29 northbound and County Road 29 southbound that would tie directly into 34 would be utilized in the event of emergency. For some of the timeline things with emergency evacuation, we lean heavily on our emergency first responders and the intel that they have. We do have 24-hour access to a weather service. We are updated on weather. We are updated on changing weather, inclement and incoming. However, things like wildfires, situations that evolve outside of our scope, situations that may arise on the fly, we lean on first responders in their intel, and they're the ones that make that call. We don't get into arguments on evacuation. If they say we need to evacuate, if there's an impending thing, we go. That's just the way this operates. So some of the other, things that have come up have been the potential for other events. We haven't seen any CSU games announced yet. We understand that is a kind of thing that is floating in the ether, and I don't know how that's going to play out. But if we need to adjust some staffing there, or we're going to do that at the discretion of the sheriff's department. To the capacity thing, this is a different music festival. We're working with a lot of the same people, but the 9,000 patrons that were in the capacity in 2019, I believe, was sorry?
I'm sorry, but you have just a few seconds left.
that was the number that was requested, and it was granted. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. So, so that we are done with the rebuttal and some questions. Colleagues, do you have further questions for staff? I had one, so. Commissioner Stevens.
I actually have a question for Ned, if that's all right, if you could come back up. Just a couple questions. So when a person buys a ticket, it's a multi-day ticket, so are there individual day tickets, or they would buy the ticket for the whole span of the show?
Currently, we're anticipating selling 3-day passes.
3-day passes, but
Yes.
not single day event?
Not at this time.
Okay. Do all the people camp?
Yes. All of the patrons will have the ability to camp. That's part of the ticketed. If they do, let's suppose somebody wants to stay at a hotel down in town, they can leave, they can take a ride share, they can go and stay at the hotel and come back. They're going to get a wristband that gets them re-entry.
So there might be some ingress and egress, but you anticipate that like 75%, or what percent usually camp in these kind of scenarios?
I would say 75% there's an 8% ticket attrition. I would say the amount of patrons going in town for, lodging is closer to 7.5%, 8%.
Okay. Some people maybe don't like to sleep on the ground.
Some people prefer to sleep in a bed.
Sure. I'm one of those people. So what about, so I looked at the stuff about crowd control. It was more a philosophy of crowd control, which I appreciate, but how many people do you assign to something like crowd control? So we've seen kind of instances where there have been trampling and serious kind of concerns, and I understand you're 7 square feet per person, kind of, but I mean, if somebody gets really excited, like, or I don't know what happens in those scenarios, but things do happen. So how many people do you designate for just the crowd control part?
It depends on kind of the jurisdiction, but usually there is a ratio that a local county likes to see, and then I increase that. It can be one patron per 150 people. I've seen one security per 225 people. In a situation like this, this is a wide open area with the exception of that tented stage. Crowd surge, crowd control, trampling, crushing tends to happen when people reach a pinch point and there's nowhere to go. This site is built to, if there was some sort of surge, expand outwardly. And not only is there room to go outwardly, there's also room to go straight back through emergency exits. Crowd management is what keeps people coming back to concerts. People, if they get crowded, if they get scared, if they get dehydrated, these are trained professionals that are trained to see what those look like, how to pull those people out safely, how to get them to a safe spot, and then, get them back into the show if that's what they want to do. It's a big part of my industry is crowd management.
Is it an all ages show?
16 and up currently.
16. How do you prevent underage drinking or underage substance use?
Yeah, so there's a few different methods, but the one that we like to use is we like to ID everybody with a tip certified bartender, and that person gets a wristband that is a very identifiable non-tampering wristband. If that does not get approval with the county, then we ID everybody per drink per sale. It's standard practice in our world. Underage drinking is very serious for us. That's a huge portion of our business, and we do it safely. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you. That's all I have too. I don't know if anybody else has.
Commissioner Kofalis?
Excuse me.
I think that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's start deliberations. And I just want to maybe start, if you don't mind, colleagues, but just with a suggestion. For me, tonight, there seems like, I know that the applicant says that they've addressed all of the referral agency's questions, but it sounds like a lot of the responses to the, like in the fire department, they hadn't responded, but it looks like they responded on Friday afternoon. And it looks like these agencies haven't had a chance to respond or look at those or give us back where they thought they were adequately addressed. So I'm curious if my colleagues would just to think about possibly tabling this hearing for another hearing at the, I think you said February 27th, so that staff could adequately review some of these reports unless my colleagues feel comfortable with kind of the, like you said, the crowd control was more of a philosophy. I just feel like there's still a lot of plans that weren't quite solidified. So I don't know, just kind of putting that out there for an idea, but I'll go ahead and Commissioner Stevens, are you, you want to start deliberations?
I mean, are we going to do deliberations if we're actually proposing tabling this?
I'm just.
I mean, I'm not going to deliberate on a thing that needs to be,
Right,
if
so
if we're planning to table it.
Well, I just want to put that out there for you all. I just feel there was a lot of reports submitted Friday afternoon. It sounds like the fire department and the sheriff's department said they had not received a plan, even though they say Justin-wide. So it sounds like they might have submitted it, but it doesn't sound like we've heard back from those referral agencies that they have been responded to or have had a chance to respond to the information that was submitted. So I'm just putting that out there. We don't have to, before we do, you're right, before we do any deliberations, maybe we need to talk about, do we need to table this since there's a lot of this information that came at the, and some of these things were just put on our table from this today. So I'm just would like to have a discussion about that first.
No, and I appreciate the suggestion, and honestly, it probably is a good idea, because I'm thinking, as we look at our review criteria, 7.5.4, is the applicant has demonstrated that the special event has addressed the recommendations of the referral agencies. I can't adequately judge that at this time. I don't know if that's been addressed. So, I still feel like there's a lot of, there's significant new material. I don't see that it's addressed whether there could be another date, which was one of the recommendations of one of the referral agencies. And so it probably would be better, honestly, to table a decision and make sure that we have all the information before we make a good decision.
Right, because I agree with you, Commissioner Stevens. I just feel like with the information that we have currently, it just seems like we can't, they haven't, what we have in front of us, they're not able to address some of these referral agencies. And so it would be, I'd have a lot of concerns because I would have to ask, for those referral agencies to see if they've been accurately addressed, and I can't to feel like I can do that this evening. So Commissioner Kofalis, what do you think about that?
Well, thank you, and it appears that the two of you think that that's a good idea. So it just takes two to tango around here. A comment, and so I guess I think there's some logic there, although I was prepared to deliberate. I would want to make a comment, though, if I may.
And please do, this is just deliberations, I'm not, just because we're.
But it sounds
Yeah.
like we're looking to continue this hearing to a particular date based on, certainly 7.5.4 and actually some of the other four criterion. My comment is this, where's our friend over there? I just find it there's a bit of a disconnect here for me because you all are supposed to be a worldwide company. You have a lot of experience doing this. And I'm looking at a letter from our Larimer County Emergency Services dated December 12th expressing concerns about evacuation plans and expressing concerns about that site is not good for sheltering in place in the event of a wildfire. That letter from our Emergency Operations Director is December 12th, and the Emergency Operations Director is receiving the evacuation plan only a few days ago. So there is a bit of, I want to state that for the record, there's a serious disconnect, and and that's a problem for me, that if you guys are so good at what you do, how come these folks, one of the critical pieces is evacuation and wildfires and natural disasters, and in August it could either have monsoons or it could be dry as can be, and people smoking and all the rest. So I'm just want to make that comment.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Stevens, I'm just putting it out that we don't have to do that. We can go ahead but let's decide before we do any deliberation.
I think,
Go ahead.
if I could just make a couple of comments, Commissioners. One is, if you do want to table it, you need to make a motion to do that, and then you need to vote on it. I think that before you do that, I would give the applicant an opportunity to make a record about their position on the continuance. There's been a couple of comments about picking another weekend or a different day. If you're going to do that, they're going to have to withdraw the application and reapply because the notice wasn't provided for a different weekend. It was provided for that weekend. So if they want to move it to a different weekend, they're going to have to do another round of noticing. When we've done continuances in the past for these sorts of things, what we've done is if that's what you do, you continue it, you give the other people an opportunity to make their comments. This is up to you all, but what we've done in the past is we've reopened public comment only to address new information that's come in, not information that's already been heard, but new information that's come in. You would then have to give the applicant an opportunity to respond to any of that stuff, so they would have a chance to rebut it, and then you could ask questions after that. But it's procedurally important that you're basically extending the hearing, and then you have to give everybody a chance to comment on new information, but we're not having the same hearing over again.
Thank you, Frank, for that clarification. So, we're just, it was kind of just the question I had. So I would we need to ask the applicant first for a continuance, or would we look for that motion if that's something?
I don't think you have to ask the applicant for permission to give the continuance, but I would give them an opportunity to make their opinion on the matter known on the record.
So we'll have the applicant come up.
If you need additional time to let these entities review the documents that were submitted to them, and we need to do a continuance, we can allow that. I do feel like we did respond to all of their answers in a timely manner. A lot of these, they're big, complicated questions. So yeah, if we need to do a continuance on the record, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. I think or we can go ahead and deliberate. Commissioner Stevens.
I think that at this point it's best to continue the hearing to February 27th. So I would be happy to make that motion. But if it's outvoted, then we can deliberate, so I guess we can start with that. Madam Chair, I move to continue this hearing to February 27th, 2023.
There is a motion on the table. Any further discussion, Commissioner Kafalis? Okay, all those in favor of continuing the hearing until February 27th, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Commissioner Shattuck McNally, just to clarify, we are looking at the 6:30 PM part of that hearing on the 27th, correct?
Okay. So let's go ahead and, I appreciate that, Commissioner. So we'll continue with deliberation. So you want to start, Madam Chair?
I do not, because I voted for a continuance.
Okay.
So I would prefer someone else to start deliberations.
Commissioner Kafalis.
Confused, I thought we had motioned, the motion was to continue this till February 27th.
And we voted it down because I voted with you with not allowing, because hearing some, after the comments, which can happen during a hearing with the responses.
Okay. Then I'll offer the following comments. First of all, I sincerely appreciate everyone being here. You probably have figured out where I'm at with this proposal. We have to make decisions. The commissioners have to make decisions based on the review criteria that's set forth in section 7.5, and we have to make a determination that each of those criteria has been met or determined to be inapplicable. The recommendation from our community development team, based on the information at hand, was to deny the application because actually all 5 of the review criteria, either there were questions or it was felt that they weren't adequately met. And so based on that, I would vote to deny this application, this special events permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I concur with my colleague. My issue is with, some of the agencies that we heard from tonight. For both fire and the sheriff's office to tell us that they would have serious concerns about safety and evacuation in this case would be, that we have to listen to the people that are responsible for safety in our community. And when we hear from agencies that we respect and we know that have done evacuations and have served well in our community, and they tell us that they have serious problems with this, I do not think that this application meets review criteria 7.5.5, which relates to this performance standards in 7.7, one of which is, which talk about security and fire protection needs in the community. While the Fire Protection District has been notified, they have let us know that they would be severely, they would have a struggle serving, if there were a serious incident at this event, or there were a fire or a flood, that they would have a very hard time responding to that, and would likely not be able to have an engine present at this event. So because of security and safety concerns, I cannot approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens, for that. Based on the material in front of us, with the applicant said they submitted and addressed all that, but we don't have that information. And so I also agree with my colleagues that review criteria of the 7.5.4 has not been addressed. Also, 7.5.3, that will result in a substantial adverse impact on the properties in vicinity, including environmental sensitive areas or features on other lands. We heard from I don't have confidence that they have addressed not impacting the other business. They would said they would have to shut down for several days, and also if their buildings were shaking before. I know they have demonstrated or said, or not demonstrated, they have said they have this new technology, but I'm not sure how they mitigate 13,000 people. But again, it sounds like the staff did not recommend this with that many people. They had a recommendation of 9,000, and I think the referral agencies had a lot of concerns. I am worried about the amount of crowd control, the wildfire risk mitigation work. Also, I really am concerned about the strain on our emergency services, our sheriff department, our fire department. It's a very busy time of year. It's at all-time busy wildfire risk area time period of our county, and I'm just not sure that they have addressed the extra strain on our resources. And so with that, I would go along with staff's recommendation to deny this application. So I concur with my colleagues. So with that, I'm Commissioner Klaus. I look for a motion.
I move that the Board of County Commissioners deny the AEG Special Event Music Festival number 22-SP Event 0050.
Thank you for that motion. Colleagues, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. And with that, at 9:12, we are adjourned. Thank you.